All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're tracking the truly unbelievable history of the Czech Republic. It's a story of a people who have lived at the absolute crossroads of Europe, enduring constant, massive shifts in power, yet somehow managing to keep their unique culture and identity alive. It is, quite literally, a true phoenix rising from the ashes over and over again. Just listen to this incredible quote from an 80-year-old Czech citizen reflecting on their life. Think about that for a second, living through 4 radically different regimes: an empire, a newly formed democratic republic, a terrifying fascist occupation, and a heavy-handed communist state, and doing all of that without ever moving from your hometown. It perfectly captures the sheer turbulence we're about to explore. Section 1. Roots of the Czech state. To really grasp this incredible survival story, we have to establish the baseline of Czech greatness. We're going from early Slavic tribes to a magnificent medieval powerhouse. In the 9th century, the Great Moravian Empire united the Slavic tribes. But the real golden age, that came under Charles IV in the 14th century. He made Prague the seat of the Holy Roman Empire, making it the 4th largest city in Europe at the time. He founded Charles University in 1348, and the Czech language and culture deeply flourished. But, this independence also sparked a fiercely independent spirit, leading to the Hussite Wars in the early 1400s, where followers of the reformer Jan Hus fought tooth and nail against the Holy Roman Empire for their religious and national freedom. Section 2. Under the Habsburg shadow. So, unfortunately, this period of immense cultural bloom was violently interrupted. It's crazy how a single conflict led to centuries of subjugation. In 1618, Bohemian nobles revolted against the Catholic Habsburgs, an event famous as the Defenestration of Prague, which kicked off the devastating 30 Years' War. But the critical blow actually came at the Battle of White Mountain in 1620. The imperial army totally crushed the Czech rebellion. The Habsburgs took complete control, and they assiduously attempted to wipe out the Czech nation, executing leaders, exiling dissidents, and aggressively suppressing the Czech identity. Look at this staggering number, 73%. By 1715, because of these harsh imperial policies and urban migration, 73% of Prague's residents were German speakers. The Czech people were quite literally being erased from their own capital city. You can really see the stark contrast here. The beautiful Czech language went from being this celebrated, unifying force under Charles IV, complete with epic poetry and translated Bibles, to being completely banned from public and official life by the Habsburgs. It was stripped out of the judicial system, out of schools and government documents. It essentially became relegated to the countryside, kept alive only by the lower classes, while the elites strictly spoke German. Section 3. Birth of a Republic. But despite centuries of strict suppression, a powerful 19th century cultural revival sparked a national rebirth. Through the tireless work of leaders like President Tomáš Masaryk and Edvard Beneš, and the unbelievable bravery of 40,000 Czechoslovak legionnaires who fought alongside the Allies, the independent republic was proclaimed in October 1918. And they didn't just survive, they totally thrived. Inheriting the industrial heartland of the old empire, Czechoslovakia rapidly grew into a vibrant, westernized democracy, ultimately becoming the 10th largest economy in the world during the interwar period. Section 4. War and Communist Rule. Tragically, that prosperous, independent republic was ripped away. The sudden darkness of the 1939 Nazi occupation changed absolutely everything. Following the Munich Pact, which, handed over parts of the country without a fight, Hitler's armies marched right in. The Czech people were subjected to mass terror. They were stripped of their civil rights and sent to forced labor camps. Their universities were closed down, bookstores were burned, and their massive industrial base was completely absorbed to feed the German war machine. Now, the nightmare of Nazi rule ended with the 1945 liberation by the Red Army, but actually, scratch that. This liberty was totally false. It quickly morphed into a 1948 communist coup. Czechoslovakia basically became a Soviet satellite state, enduring heavy censorship, show trials, and just a constant climate of fear. In 1968, a reform movement known as the Prague Spring emerged, attempting to create what they called socialism with a human face, but Moscow absolutely wouldn't allow it. They initiated a secret military operation, codenamed Danube, and Soviet tanks rolled straight into Prague, crushing the reforms and plunging the nation back into strict totalitarian rule for 2 more decades. Section 5. The Velvet Revolution. But true to that recurring phoenix motif we talked about, the powerful Czech spirit absolutely refused to be extinguished. Look at this massive, undeniable number, 300,000. It all started in late 1989 with a student march commemorating the anniversary of the Nazi occupation, which the police brutally put down. This sparked massive outrage. By the very next Friday, 300,000 protesters gathered peacefully in Prague's Wenceslas Square to demand democracy. Led by intellectuals, playwrights like Václav Havel, and everyday citizens, they didn't burn tanks or fire weapons. They used sheer, peaceful numbers to prove the Communist Party could no longer govern. So this bloodless, velvet revolution naturally paved the way for what's known as the Velvet Divorce. With freedom achieved, the differing historical and political paths of the Czechs and Slovaks came to the forefront. Instead of fighting a brutal civil war like we saw in other parts of Europe during this exact same time, they chose a uniquely diplomatic path. On January 1, 1993, Czechoslovakia willingly and peacefully divided itself into two independent sovereign states, the Czech Republic and Slovakia. Section 6. The Modern Czech Republic. Today, after surviving centuries of external domination, their modern achievements are just astonishing. Through a radical privatization process, they transitioned from a heavily centralized communist system to a thriving free market economy. They actually doubled their GDP between 1992 and 2002. They successfully acceded to NATO in 1999, which was a huge step for their national security, and fully integrated into the European Union. What we're seeing is a consolidated, resilient democracy that has completely shed its oppressive past and fully embraced a vibrant future. Which brings us to our final provocative thought to take away from this explainer today. After a millennium of being caught in the crosshairs of empires, surviving brutal cultural erasure, and pulling off some of the most peaceful democratic transitions in modern history, what does the future hold for a fiercely independent Czechia? They've proven time and time again that you can erase a language from government documents, and you can roll tanks into a capital city, but you absolutely cannot extinguish the spirit of a nation determined to be free. Thanks for watching, and keep exploring.